Sports Lounge 280, the coronavirus edition of the Sports Lounge. Marcus Blackburn here. Charlie Hildebrand, new couch, new to you. Have you had experience with this couch before, I should say?
This was the couch that was in my parents', I guess we'd call it not like a family room. It was in the room where our Christmas tree was, and literally the only time we used this incredibly comfortable couch all year was on Christmas Day when we opened presents. And we'd sit in this couch and be like, wow, this is comfy. How come we don't hang out in this room anymore?
But what about that it might be comfortable because you only sit on it once a year?
Yeah, that might be true. Although it's at least, structurally sound, it doesn't have a huge dip in the middle of it like my old one did. So, it's an upgrade over the old one I had.
My parents have a couch that it's in our living room. That's they've had it for probably 10 or 15 years and just worn the bejesus out of it because everybody sits on it. And I remember it being very comfortable, and now it's just not. And they know they want to replace it and everything, but it's just like when you know a couch is done for, it's a tough feeling, but you know that the couch gave you all it had because that's its thing. So I'm sitting on a chair that was in my grandparents' basement. There's a love seat in my living room that was in their basement as well. So their entire basement has moved to my apartment, and because it was a chair from old people, it's still got some life to it, even though it lived for 20 years. I'm beating it up more in the last 3 years that I've had it than they did in 15 or 20 years with it. So
we got rid of a couple of chairs. When was that? Maybe a couple of weeks ago. We sent them to an auction. Auction is Saturday. Those chairs are gone. There was a couch when I grew up, maybe in high school or college. I was against having a new couch. And my protest was I never sat on the new couch. I said, fuck you and your new couch. I never sat on the fucking thing. So there we go.
In the words of the Chappelle's show, F your couch.
Screw the couch. Stacken hopefully will join us. It seems like he is taking the cancellations of the
I just want to start by saying it's Sports Lounge 280, the non-sports edition.
The non-sports edition. We're talking about no sports. So there doesn't appear to be any sports. I suppose if you call NASCAR a sport and you call golf a sport, as far as I know, golf will happen without people. Racing will happen without people. Everything else, essentially, for the next month has been canceled, if not longer, which is quite the development compared to where we were on Tuesday. They played like a half of a Big East game today, and they called it. Very, very odd. Nathan Stacken has joined us. He has not changed clothes for quite some time. He's still in the Summit League. What do we got here? Which one is this?
This is year 2.
Year 2, 2010. Still looking like it's
20. I thought that Stack Attack would show up in here and there'd just be a casket sitting there, and there would be we wouldn't see him. So I'm glad that he's living and breathing today. That's great to see.
Well, Costco didn't have their caskets on sale, so
give it a few days. So
they're still out of toilet paper.
That's right.
I'm not a stock market expert, but if you're going to buy stock in anything, I would think Costco and Sam's would go very high right now while everyone's constantly buying stuff.
A lot of stuff.
Shelves are empty.
Marcus, how surprised are you that it happened so quickly? And everything's done. Everything's done for a long time.
I'm stunned. This has been as somebody who works in the news industry. I mean, this has been a fire hose of news, and it's almost impossible to keep up with all the little things that are advancing. I can speak to the last few days have just kind of been unbelievable. When we were gathered, for the Summit League tournament just a few days ago, we had a feeling that this would impact. We would maybe see an impact. Nobody saw 48 hours and the NCAA tournament would be canceled, and every major sport is shut down pretty much. That's at least held indoors. In the case of the NCAA, we're talking about the College World Series isn't held till the third week of June, and that's not going to happen either. So it has taken off. It's a big deal. It's dangerous, but I'm still very surprised.
Charlie, I look back and I like living in big moments like 9/11. Bad deal, but it's like, oh, I remember 9/11. That was a bad deal. I would put this on that level. I don't think you can compare this to anything else. And there's certain things like that where maybe only a couple of things you could actually. We haven't had a president be assassinated. We haven't had anything like that.
Yeah, in our lifetimes.
I mean, just everything is shut down from sporting events to, schools are next. Schools or colleges are being delayed. Thankfully, this is over a spring break. Would you put this on that level of, because life changes even if you can't watch sports. Like there's really no activity, there's no concerts. Movie theaters are apparently opened, I guess.
And breweries.
And breweries, thank God. But Charlie, would you put this pretty high on the list of weird things in your life?
Yeah, of things in our life, and obviously I think it's safe to say that September 11th was like worse and more surprising, but this is the only thing I can think of where just like everything is just like, nope, we're not doing it. I mean, we've seen one event canceled for different reasons, but never just everything. And like Traxler said, in such a, just 48, 72 hours ago, it was like, well, maybe they'll have NBA games without fans in attendance, and that'll be different. But we're still going to have games. So just nope, there is nothing going on for the foreseeable future. It's very. So I mean, I don't know. I don't watch as much ESPN as I used to, but I remember on September 11th being surprised that even on ESPN, that's all they were talking about as like a sophomore in high school. I think. I don't know, but I would imagine if you turned there now that it would be the same thing. And I mean, I would understand it more now so as an adult, but that is just dominating everything.
It dominated last night. I mean, Scott Van Pelt interrupted. Well, I mean, they cut into the NBA game, of course, when it got canceled. But
what is this on ESPN? Are these highlights or is this a game? This highlights? This is highlights of the MEAC women. Whatever the hell this is. Stack, and I felt like I didn't think they'd cancel the tournament. I felt like they could have it without people if that was the cause, but apparently not. Since they've it felt, and you were of the you wanted this thing canceled and then picked up normally here after a while. I felt like, all right, play these games. If there's limited people there, that's fine. Just play these games. I don't know if it's the level of cancel everything.
No,
it is because there's like 20 sports on my screen right now that are supposed to have championships, and they're not going to happen.
Well, you can't after last night with Rudy Gobert testing positive for the coronavirus. Like if the NBA is going to cancel or suspend their season, there is no way that you can make college athletes who aren't getting paid a dime for putting on obviously they're the main attraction. They're the asset in this tournament here that we love so much. You can't make these student athletes go out and, for our amusement, play a tournament in front of no fans and put them in any risk, in any danger when the NBA is folded operations, when the NHL is folded operations, when baseball's pushed their season back, Major League Soccer is suspending their season for 30 days. You can't do it. I don't know. Jay Billis was on a lot this afternoon. He said that maybe there were some things with the contracts between the networks and insurances and everything like that with the NCAA, and maybe that's why they had to cancel it and they couldn't postpone it to May. Because I heard, I'm not a big Fran McCaffrey fan at all.
Who is?
Yeah.
I am. I have become a little bit of one today after listening to him talk with Reese Davis about, what he was talking with his team, and just how mature they were in handling everything. And then he said yeah, you know what? If we could postpone this till May, we'd be down for that. It must be something within the contracts. I don't know why you would immediately go to cancel it. And I guess to me, again, the pandemic. It is a pandemic. It's supposed to get worse apparently in the U.S. We'll see if that happens. Of course, there's some testing issues and stuff that we're a little lagging behind. But to me, it kind of feels like, one of those bad guys coming through like an old town or a town in the Old West, and everyone has just shuttered their doors, and it's just a ghost town, just tumbleweeds going through. Like that's how I feel like the coronavirus is going to sweep across the nation and be like, where the hell is everyone? Yeah, everyone's indoors. Everyone's shuttered up for the foreseeable future, and it's a shame. I'm devastated by this. There are very few things that I look forward to more in a year than March Madness, and this is absolutely devastating.
I would agree with Stacken on. I was in the camp that, or at least I'm. If I'm misinterpreting, feel free to interrupt. Yep. I'm in the camp that I would have liked to have seen them postpone it to April or May and see what happens. I just think the whole idea that, I think the tournament is worth playing. I mean, why did you invest 6 months or 5 months into the season if the end of the year isn't the part that matters?
Yep.
I think the problem they run into is how can we, and Sacken was all over it, right? If once the NBA is not playing, you can't, win an all-star. And that's really where this all changed, I think, last night, where you got Rudy Gobert get sick, you got Tom Hanks get sick. Those are people that everybody pretty much knows.
American darling Tom Hanks.
American darling Tom Hanks.
There's not many people on planet Earth you could pick more so that people just be like, oh no, this person has it? That's not good.
Yeah. I saw something on Twitter regarding Tom Hanks, because he's in Australia and he's on a deserted island or something. He's like, well, if anyone could be stranded on a desert island, it would be Tom Hanks, and he can handle it better than anyone else.
Yeah, and then you had the fake news story about people sending, a volleyball named Wilson with, to go hang out with him and all that stuff. I just think the other part is that if you're not going to have classes till April, and school's not going to start till April, it's hard to say, well, we're going to start playing basketball right away in April too, I suppose. So that becomes a little bit of an issue, but I kind of look at, we were just talking about the College World Series. I mean, they play that in the third week of June. What's stopping you from pushing it all the way to July or August? And so I would have liked to see them continue this on. But this is something where we've all seen that curve thing that they're talking about, where you got to flatten the curve of coronavirus. And if we want,
He is frozen.
Oh, no.
We lost him. I had another casualty to the list.
Yeah, he had a good point going there. Oh no!
Back. We lost Charlie second. We thought shit was going downhill in a hurry.
The coronavirus is taking everyone out. Is Marcus okay?
Bitch this thing is. Well,
man blocker.
Wham! So hopefully he can join us back here. And Rudy Gobert.
He looks absolutely terrible in all of this. Like when I saw the press conference, that he's, going in, I'm going to joke and, touch people's phones and the microphones and stuff, like, okay, that's really dick move guy. And then, to hear that Donovan Mitchell test positive today, and then you hear, you hear what he said on Instagram, and you don't need to understand anything to know that was a shot at Rudy Gobert. About it. Let me get it here.
And Charlie, to think about it, I don't think that Astros cheating thing is going to be all that big of a deal anymore.
True. Yeah, I think. Yeah. If you're an Astros player, you're probably like, you know what? Maybe this is they're the only people. Astros would be the only pro correct.
You know what? This ain't the worst thing for us.
Here's what Donovan Mitchell said. He said, "Thanks to everyone who has been reaching out since hearing the news about my positive test. We are all learning more about the seriousness of this situation, and hopefully people can continue to educate themselves and realize that they need to behave responsibly, both for their own health and for the well-being of those around them. I appreciate the authorities in Oklahoma who were helpful with the test process, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to follow the advice of our medical staff and hope that we can all come together and be there for each other and our neighbors who need our help. But that first part there, that is a direct shot at Rudy Gobert, and rightfully so. He looks like an absolutely terrible person in all of this.
Yes. Marcus, anything else before you died?
Yeah, bad internet here. Sorry about that. You know, I we're 15 minutes in, and I'm agreeing with Stacking too much. But yeah, I mean, I completely agree that
coming around.
I don't, you know, I would say that it's not Rudy Gobert's fault necessarily, but boy, he looks like an idiot. You know, he looks like an idiot because when you treat it that carelessly, and then you're the guy who gets it, you know, you just look dumb. And frankly, there's people in all of our lives that we know online that frankly they're treating it in a similar way where they're just being stupid about it, and you're like, well, I guess I don't care if you get it if you're going to be that dumb about it. So it's something we have to treat seriously, otherwise this is going to be a real problem. You know, we're looking at 1,600 cases. Spain is apparently one of these countries that has it bad. They've only got 2,000, so we're going to go flying past them very quickly. And you know, it's one of those things where we kind of have to weather the storm, otherwise it's going to be a problem.
I want to be careful here with what I say, but like I do think that
Always a good start to things.
yeah,
Here we go.
This is a big deal, and I get why we're taking all of the necessary precautions. But to me, this coronavirus, if I get it, I get it. It's not the end of the world for me. There is a greater population out there, the elderly, those with pre-existing health conditions or bad immune systems. They are the people who are more potentially to be affected by this and in dire straits by getting this. I just don't. To me,
It's not at the level where you cancel every single thing.
Yes, and I'm struggling with that because I get that it's a serious problem or a potential serious problem. I get the health correlations in there. I get why it's a pandemic, worldwide. But to me, this is not. It hasn't risen to the level to me where, oh my God, let's shut everything down. And that's essentially what you're doing here, because, and not just even from the sports world, but, you see the economy, the stocks are tanking now. We're in a bear market. You have all these, all these companies and stuff that are establishing work from home places and stuff, which is good. I'm glad they're being proactive in that. There's just a whole lot going into this that it will be worth it if the virus does not spread and is contained. But we're making this to be like the worst thing that has ever come into existence on this planet.
But
to agree.
We can't afford to take a chance.
And I agree.
Right now it's not as bad as I think people think, or it's not as bad as it could be, but it's going to get worse. It's not. I don't think that's even really up for debate. And so, I see what you're saying, because I'm kind of I feel like I'm kind of in the same, or you at least work through the same stages of bargaining and acceptance and all that stuff. But
grief, denial.
The same stages of grief. But I just think if we don't treat it any more seriously, I mean, we're looking at tens of thousands of people in South Dakota getting it. We're looking at hundreds of thousands. I mean, wasn't it today that the governor of Ohio or somebody in Ohio said 750,000 people are going to get this? And it's just like you better take it seriously, otherwise, it's and we're kind of all talking like it's and I'm in the same boat. We're approaching it. We're like, well, let's give it a month and see where we're at. We might give it a month, and it could be way worse than it is now. And all of a sudden we're looking at, okay, let's ride it out for another month or 2 months, because I don't know at what point this thing dies out. Where does it? have the symptoms for 2 weeks and it dies off on me, but who's the person down the road who's gonna have it? So
it's a more perilous or dire situation, and I agree with that. I think that's where the greatest fear in all of this is. It's the unknown. We don't know what this virus can do, how it's gonna. I mean, we know kind of how it spreads and the symptoms and stuff, but this is a true unknown. There is no vaccine for it, and I guess what frustrates me is that, I think and I say we, and as in the collective United States, or at least the government and stuff, we're just like, okay, we'll do some testing on this, but like when China was really getting hit hard, and then it gets to Italy, where was that sense of urgency with that? Why haven't we been able to get the tests, faster, the results faster on the test? How come we can't get the testing for all these patients faster? How come we haven't set something up where you don't have to worry about your insurance or anything like that? It's getting to that point now, but it feels like we're reaching for to try and get ahead of it. And while we should have made these things so we didn't have to get to this point, if that makes sense.
Charlie, how do you put together a newspaper when there's no public gatherings?
That's a good question. We're not at the point where that's an issue yet, but that will probably be an issue not for this week's paper on Saturday, but the following week, where I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see. As a for now, basically only a sports reporter, we are going to be at the point of the year where we were planning on not having stuff anyway. So we've got some feature stories banked on stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I was wondering about that earlier. Like, what are we going to do if, 4 weeks from now or whenever track starts, if they're not doing any track? I mean, we might have to get clever with stuff.
I have a joint role. I do some news and some sports, kind of like Charlie. And so I'm in the boat of like already today. I was like, what are the stories that we can do over the phone that we can just call somebody and we don't have to drive anywhere, and we can put those together. There's definitely the other part of me where it's like today we had a whole plan of what was going to go on the front page, and it all got blown up because we typically have 4 stories on the front page, and 3 of them tomorrow are about the coronavirus. So it's just one of those things where that's going to dominate the news cycle, at least in the A section, so to speak. In the sports section, I really have no idea what the hell is going to happen. I'm just planning that over the next month we got to come up with some stuff because we typically do a spring sports preview section. Do you do a spring sports preview if none of these things are going to be held? I really don't have any idea. So if anybody's got some suggestions, I'll take them. But
how about
they're bringing in students to class? I'm going to be able to get the 28 kids in track to even get to the same place to take a picture. I mean, This sounds weird, but that's a lot more difficult now than we would have thought a week ago.
Yeah.
How about like this day, on this day last year or 2 years ago, like look back at various things that happened, either at like Mitchell baseball or something like that.
True, it's not a bad idea stacking, but that's like 20 inches at most, and you need a lot more.
Yeah.
It's a good idea, but to be honest, this is a time of the year where there's just not much happening. So I would say that even 10 years ago, I don't know how interesting it would be, but we've got people that I could have comb through the archives. So,
what do you make of the response? There were games yesterday. There was like a Big East with Creighton, and somebody played a half a ball, and they called it Class B out west in Spearfish. They had people for the first 2 games. They have limited people for the rest of the tournament. NBA games last night, right before they were going to play, they canceled them. It feels like, why wasn't this made sooner? It feels like, games there's actually a game going on at Madison Square Garden today, and then the second half wasn't played. And I'm sure you got a lot of pissed off people out in Spearfish right now that made a very long drive that now cannot watch whatever game they wanted to go to. It feels like specifically the Class B girls, it's not a big deal in South Dakota. The virus doesn't appear to be right now. They're out there. Let them go to the thing. It's not a big crowd. There's not a lot of people at these games. I don't know, but it's like,
Well, what I would say is that the rationale this morning or this afternoon was that apparently they had more people there than they expected. Now, I don't know what that number was. I'm sure it was 1,000 people or something. But I watched the first game and the building was relatively full. Now it's not as full. And they're basically going to have people, they're going to shuttle people in and out all day for their specific game. So it's just I agree that it's just kind of, is it moving this quickly where you really have to kind of come up with this haphazard back and forth where, well, now we're going to go as planned. Now we're going to go without fans. Now we're going to limit fans that, I have no idea. I have to trust that these people are, they've got the best in everybody's mind, but yeah, it doesn't look good right now when the plan changes and the NAI is a great example. You had people drive 10 hours one way to games that never even happened. Or, this morning, Dakota Wesleyan women play, but their men don't. They're supposed to be playing right now. So it's just, it doesn't add up.
Yeah, I mean, this is not like overly enlightening, and I don't think I'm going that far on the limb here. But I think a lot of it, too, was that just people thought, like, well, I mean, this seems sort of problematic, but I guess we'll just deal with it. It wasn't until the NBA suspended everything that everyone went, wait, what? If they're doing it, and they, have more money. I mean, in general, the NBA has more money than the NAI and all sorts of other sporting events. They thought, well, if they're doing it, I guess we have to feel like we should do it now too. And yeah.
And I'm wondering, but again, did the NBA suspend operations only because of Rudy Gobert's positive test? I would say yes. I think they were planning to play in empty arenas. And Gobert's positive test expedited, and they just said, okay, scrap everything. We're just going to shut it all down. And I'm trying to remember the timeline here because I believe President Trump gave his address, and then the NBA suspended their season after that. So I don't know if they took anything from that address.
No.
And
there wasn't much to take from it as it pertains to the NBA. Yeah. So.
No, I just meant, though, in general preparation and stuff regarding the coronavirus. If that maybe had anything to do with it, I don't think it does, or I don't think it did, but you never know. But I think it's really all down to Rudy Gobert.
Marcus, does it feel like things would have been different if somebody else was in charge of this thing? We would have acted sooner. We would have tests. We still don't have tests somehow. This has been around for multiple weeks. We don't have testing.
I think
this was not
as a blanket approach, I think we would have been better prepared.
Other countries are doing better at this than we are.
Right.
It's fair to say that.
I think it's fair to say that this commander-in-chief didn't think it was a big deal, and now it is a big deal. And I think you can easily argue that another president would have said, that's going to be, or he would have had people that he trusted that would have told him, hey, this is going to be a big deal in a few months, or we better start preparing now. Now, that being said, I read a Washington Post story this morning about how we've got, basically a national stockpile of stuff for, crises like this. And for example, the face mask supply has not been replenished in 10 years. Now, I can't in good conscience put that only on Donald Trump. So, I'm sure there were plenty of people that said, well, we're not going to worry about it, or we'll divert money somewhere else because it's not a problem. Well, it's not a problem until it's a problem. And so, I don't know. I think, the testing thing is kind of it's a misleading thing in some ways because there is testing happening on a state level. South Dakota has testing, but they don't have a ton of it. So you're kind of like, okay, well, let's hope that holds up. So it's a very precarious situation where, nationally we should have a lot more tests than 1,700 or whatever we've gotten so far. But who knows? I'm sure they're working on it. So
Stacken, what does ESPN do? What does any sports talk show do that's on for 2 or 3 hours every day? You can only talk about this so much at this point next week. I mean, everything's already canceled.
Yep.
Nothing's happened. There doesn't appear to be any resumption of play for at least a month from now.
Yep.
March 12th. We're talking April 12th, I would assume at the earliest. What the fuck do you do next Thursday, 2 Fridays from now?
You model your show after the Dan Levitard show with Scott.
But I mean, if you're
every ESPN's ESPN Classic now.
Yep. Well, okay. So, and they would never do this because you would lose money in it. But I just thought about what if it just goes to dead air? I mean, you shut it down for a little bit. They would never do that. But you're right. You
got to put something on there.
I don't know what you would talk about. I don't know why. Like, if you're going to talk about, I don't know, if you're going to do movie reviews, let's say, well, why am I going to ESPN for that? I can go to, Entertainment Tonight or, E! News or, some entertainment radio show and get a far better, opinion and expertise on it. I don't know what they can do. The Dan Levitard show, I'm a big fan of. They have seemed to master talking about useless and random stuff for 3 or 4 hours, but I don't know how far even they can go if there are no sports to talk about. I don't know if there's a viable solution for this long term. I really don't.
I will.
ESPN
Go ahead, Charlie.
Constant 30 for 30 marathon. ESPN 2 Playmakers. We're bringing it back. We're showing it episode after episode. ESPNU. We're bringing back all of the what they do for college football with the 25 best games of the year or whatever. Yeah. We're doing that for every year for the last 8 years, just running those.
Like ESPN used to have like shows on in the afternoon that were not people talking about sports.
Mm-hmm.
They would have Dan Patrick in the greatest games in NBA history and all of this other shit that was great.
Bring back like the top 100 athletes of the 20th century.
What happened to the
And 1 century? I would watch that if I had some of those again.
What happened to the And 1 mixtapes, for Christ's sake? What happened to the hour recap or half hour recap of the 1991 NBA Finals?
Yeah, you could do greatest sports mysteries.
The NFL thing where they make out they do the preview or the wrap up of every team season, and
yes,
everyone falls into one of 2 categories. It's either a team that's going to make a team
coming up
in the playoffs and win the Super Bowl, or it's no matter how bad you are, like they're one trade away from making the playoffs and doing those. They probably got like 15 years worth of those. I mean, you do 32 of them. 32 NFL teams, that takes up 16 hours right there.
Somehow
bring back Edge NFL matchup from week 6 of the 2003 season.
Merrill Hodge, Ron Jaworski, and Sal Palantonio.
Somehow the NFL is around all the time, and they've somehow mastered talking about something like in the middle of June when nothing football related is going on. So I'd go to those guys and say, how the fuck do you put on shows every day when there's nothing to talk about? Well, there we go. Apparently, we're in a 30-day.
Here's what I'll say. When I got home, I just.
Okay, you're good. You're good.
Okay. Here's what I'll say is that I got home, flipped the TV on. I just clicked on every station that had college basketball. I'm like, what do they got on? Fox Sports 1 was showing some game from a couple weeks ago. NBC Sports Network was showing the Mecum car auctions. I'm like, you'd be showing that anyway. That's great. Apparently that was live. Apparently that's still happening. So that's, and
that's a large public gathering.
They said they had 6 hours.
Florida is immune to this.
Arizona's where they were. So
or Florida. There's a wrestling event, the AEW. They were supposed to be like in Rochester, New York on Wednesday of next week. They've moved it to a small gathering in Jacksonville.
Yeah, well, I mean, nobody in Jacksonville is going to die from this. They're going to die from something a lot worse. So,
sure.
Yeah, if my general philosophy is I like a show that's diversified. I don't want a show that talks about sports all the time because those shows are boring and you end up with just the dumb hot takes all the time. So I don't listen to those shows in a normal circumstance, and I sure as hell aren't going to listen to those now. And so I've got I feel like I'm pretty well prepared. I've got a pretty diverse diet to keep me alive. So we'll go with that.
I don't know what
I don't like Skip Bayless or Stephen A. Smith a whole lot. But if we could somehow get those two arguing about who is more prepared for the coronavirus, I might watch that for like 5 minutes.
But it's going to be who is more prepared for the coronavirus, Dak Prescott or Jason Garrett. So,
who survived the coronavirus longer, Michael Jordan or LeBron James?
I thought of something, Crins, and I think we can make some money off of this. Let's sell our podcast rights to ESPN Radio and just have them play the Sports Block podcast all day.
I don't think they're that desperate.
Oh, shit.
Well, apparently, I don't know. I guess the NBA All-Star Game was supposed to be on. From what I read, it was supposed to be on TNT here in like 15 minutes, maybe. We'll see what happens. I mean, every Thursday, every Tuesday, TNT is supposed to have basketball. That won't happen. Like ESPN, we'll see what happens. They've got nothing. So, baseball, they were getting ready to start their season here in about 2 weeks, and that's going to be postponed. Do we expect the NBA? We got about a 30-day holding pattern here with the NBA. They're almost done with their season. They've got, I don't know, I would guess, 15 games left or so?
Yeah, and the NHL's basically the same about like 12 or
13.
So games.
Yeah.
I just don't think you can just automatically start the playoffs. I assume you got to have at least a couple weeks of games just to play, to go from not playing for a month to, all right, here we go, playoffs, let's go. You got to have a buffer. You got to have some games. So I would expect, I don't know, do you play a couple weeks of games? You pick up wherever the schedule, April 30th or whatever the schedule would have said that day, or April 10th. Like, all right, we're going to play the next 2 weeks here on out. And if it's 75 games, that's what it is. Do you expect that from the NBA?
They're each going to play the Washington Generals twice. I'm ready for the playoffs.
I think baseball will do that. I think they'll just take the schedule and just pick up and keep going. I think
144-game season.
Yeah, maybe. Or if they feel compelled, add it to the end. Add those games back at the end of the year.
Yeah.
I don't know what the NHL or the NBA does. Frankly, I think they're gonna. It's going to be April 15th before they get going again, and then all of a sudden, that would be when you'd start the playoffs. So I don't know what they should do.
Here, I've thought of all this and stuff because I'm a doomsday prepper. So here's what the NBA does: you play 3 games to kind of prepare you for the playoffs. You do best of 5 in all series long until the NBA Finals. Do best of 7. The NHL. Same format. You play 3 or 4 games to end the regular season because the points matter. Unlike Whose Line Is It Anyway? These points do matter in hockey. And then they'll do best of 5, best of 5, best of 5, and best of 7 to end it all. It's going to push the season back a little bit. That's fine. Baseball, you will play every opponent in your division a set number of times, Maybe instead of 19 times, you play them 12 times. And then you play your one interleague rival. So like Minnesota would play or interleague. So you would do Minnesota would play Milwaukee. Yep. You'll do that, standard 2 times, but forget the rest of interleague play or, playing against the one division in the
Get rid of interleague play this year. Get rid of it. And only play your league.
If you want to do that, that's fine. But there's still 15 teams, so that makes it a little more difficult in each league. So then, I don't think that will completely work. And then you just do, like 3 at New York. Maybe the Twins have to play the Yankees this year only in New York. They don't get them there. Like the Rays would come up, and vice versa.
Go college football, specifically like Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference football. You only play teams in your division until the playoffs. So we know how good everybody is.
That's fine. I'd be okay with that.
With baseball starting so early this year, I think they'll be okay. It's like the earliest start ever. So if it's just a matter of when they're going to get up going again. Is it going to be a month? If it's a month, I think they're okay. They can have, I mean, you're going to have spring training again because guys were kind of ramping up. Guys were going 4 or 5 innings. They were going 70, 75 pitches. They were on the come, as we like to say. They were about ready to blow their loads all over the diamonds of this great country. And
ready to pour on those runs.
Pour on the.
Maybe this is Major League Baseball trying to really just finish off the minor leagues. They want to get rid of all these teams. They're just going to unleash this virus. Think about it.
That is a conspiracy theory I have not heard yet. And did you guys mention before that the XFL is suspended play for the year?
Yeah, it's a shame. Thought they would be a holdout. That sucks for them.
I mean, they were. It was just only for like an extra 7 hours than everyone else.
Yeah, they were the last ones to say uncle. Would all of my bets, Marcus, would they be null and void? Just all right, come in, pick up your money, you bet.
I'm sure that's going to end up being the case, and it really sucks because I was very close.
I assume would stay intact. That's not really affected, but the win totals,
you would get your money back, wouldn't you? I would think.
Yeah, you'll get your money back.
So
it's gonna suck. It's gonna suck because I was very close to securing that Wolves season under, and now it's probably not.
Even though are they mathematically not?
They were like 1 or 2 games away
from it being mathematically impossible.
But I'm sure you got to play 82 for it to count. So, oh well.
That's the shits. That's the shits. Stacking, you got days off of work? Is that still? Are you going to go to work next week?
I will. I will go to work. No sense in me taking the time off. I'll just use that for another time, I guess. But yeah, it just sucks.
You've got a kid and wife. What do you do? I've got TV shows ready to go. I can catch up on, I guess. This can open up a lot of stuff. This can, you don't have to watch the sports. This is going to open up a lot of stuff. Hopefully the weather's okay.
Yep.
So a lot of deep dive on the Marvel Cinematic Universe and catch up on all those Avengers movies.
Oh yeah,
we got a lot of Peppa Pig I got to watch.
Absolutely. Marcus, how does this? What are you going to do? How are you going to pass the time at night?
Oh, I'll fire up the old Netflix. I'll start watching some stuff. I don't know what it's going to be yet.
Big winner, they're the big winner.
They are. They're definitely a big winner.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of it that way, but I think that's right.
What I might do is field my own 68 teams in NCAA 2K8, and even though this is 12 rosters 12 years ago, I'll play each game and see who the winner is.
That could be time consuming.
You got the time to do it. You might as well go in and change and get every roster updated to what's going on right now. What else are you going to do?
I don't have currently I'm in the NCAA tournament with the Jacks another year. Yes, 2021. I'm the 8th seed. I have to play UIC, the Flames, the 9 seed. So it's a big matchup here. I'll let you know how that goes.
Please do.
The 8th seed. You haven't created a dynasty where you're on like a 417 game winning streak yet?
No, I'm South Dakota State. I'm not that good. But I have I've won 2 national championships, so I guess that's something.
Stacking, does it warm your heart as it does mine that certain schools won't be playing in this NCAA tournament?
Yes.
Whether it be a men's team or maybe a certain women's team that was really, really good this year. Like, wish they would have had a chance to compete against whoever the fuck. But you know what? Ain't gonna happen.
Made the Final Four at least.
One of my first thoughts was, well, hey, at least USD can't reach the Sweet 16, so that's good.
There are some positives coming out of this, and that's
Like this
I see.
is the one year where now looking back, we were disappointed by the Jackrabbits losing to Purdue Fort Wayne,
Yeah, whatever.
and the women losing. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's not so bad now.
yeah, it's like okay, this is if there's ever a year to do it. And Crins, my mom brought this up, but it's like thank goodness that this didn't happen last year when we were supposed to go to the Final Four.
Yeah, that would have been disappointing. I've got 3 baseball drafts. I've got one. Schottenkirk is not postponing his. I questioned that today. I'm like, are we doing this or not? And everybody's like, yes. I'm like, all right. So we're having a baseball draft, even though games aren't going to be played for like 6 weeks now. So it'll be fun. One other league next week, they're going to postpone it, which I'm an advocate of. I mean, for Christ's sake. And the other one I think we're going to have next week. So 1 postponed, 2 others are on time. So very important news there. WrestleMania, the one event, we'll see what happens. It's early April in Tampa. I don't know. Wait and see.
I mean, if anything, Chris and I know that professional wrestling, now not always, but certainly has had its fair share of, like, guess what? They're fighting in an empty arena. What's going to happen? So I think they'll find a way to get WrestleMania to happen. They may not have people there, but I mean, if anything, you can just have Stone Cold and Booker T fighting the grocery store.
Yeah, everybody loved that one.
I'm seeing this like Dickie V and some people are saying give the seniors another year of eligibility.
Yeah, that's stupid. I just that's dumb. I don't like that.
I mean, they're not going to do it, so
I just don't like it.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's just, with all the people that aren't going to have a chance to play, it does suck. But I guess there's more important things. And of all I was really looking forward to the NCAA tournament this year, just to see what was there going to be, another 7, 8, 9, 10 seed make a run. Were there going to be the upsets like everybody expected? I guess Kansas ends as the number 1 team. South Carolina on the women's side, they're number 1. So.
Dayton, baby.
Yeah, Dayton. Jesus Christ, Dayton. What would have happened? Dayton probably would have got a 1 seed. How far would Dayton have gone? So,
you'll never know.
Disappointing. Never seen anything like it. I really wish this would have happened during the middle of the NFL season, because that would have been a whole hell of a deal. That would have been a big deal. We're talking like week 8 in the middle of.
We would have lost college football, though.
I'll take that bullet. But that would have, if football was in this.
How dare you?
That would have been amazing. That would have been amazing to see what would have happened then. We're just saying, all right.
What if we go extreme end where this is Charlie trying to have his cake and eat it too? What if it's just like literally like the day after LSU and Clemson played a national title game? They're just like, you know what, NFL playoffs, we're suspended.
I'd want that. You've got like 10 football. You've got like 10 NFL games to play. I like that. Like the Super Bowl's a month away.
Yeah, we're into you're in the playoffs, and teams think that they've got a chance to do it.
Or what if this was right before the Gophers lost to Wisconsin, so they would have gotten the Big Ten West title and would have gone to the Rose Bowl, and it would have been just in time to play Oregon, and they would have beat Justin Herbert.
What if this was the week before?
That's what I was going to say.
How great would that have been?
Why couldn't this happen and blow up my Big Ten West bet? But,
actually, I don't know why I'm debating for college football after the season Nebraska had. It probably would have been best if the season was canceled last year. So,
did you spread that to the basketball team too with Fred Hoiberg this year? Because
didn't have coronavirus. It turns out he's just got the flu, which has actually killed far more people than the coronavirus has. And he's got a heart condition, so hopefully he doesn't.
Charles Barkley's not here.
Good.
Charles Barkley's not at the on the show. He's via phone, or I don't know. He's not on the TV show here. So wherever he's from, or where Charles Barkley would be at, he could make it, I guess.
Probably in Arizona.
Probably. So
this coronavirus is terrible.
Anything, he's on the phone. Good for him. Any final thoughts, Stacking? It's a devastating day for you and yours.
Yep.
Charlie.
I hope I don't get it while I'm at Des Moines covering the state Class 2A boys state championship game tomorrow.
I just can't imagine tracks where they're going to have state tournaments next week in this state. I just can't imagine.
Well, the city of Sioux Falls, yeah, they've banned crowds of more than 250 people. So there's a bunch of events that are called off, and that includes the AA boys and girls basketball tournament. And noted, I mean, they've said either canceled, postponed, or played behind closed doors. So we'll have to see what happens here. Yeah, the way it's going, I can't see them playing that out. I'd be surprised, honestly, if the Class B tournament finishes.
I think it's at this point. If they haven't made a choice, I mean, today was the day. Today
was the day, yeah. But it's just like with how this has moved, how could you say for sure that it's going to finish?
At the very least, you got to play 3 games. You got to play semifinals tomorrow, championship. If you don't want to play 7th and 8th, that's fine.
Yeah.
But you've played games today. There's games going on now. You played 4 of the 7 meaningful games. At this point, I mean, it sucks enough that players and seniors don't get to finish their careers out with the championship. Some of them don't. At this point, you got to let it go. I mean, would you expect probably Monday that most schools in the state, there's no school for a couple weeks at the rate we're going?
The way we're going, I wouldn't be surprised if that comes out on Friday, tomorrow.
I mean, Mitchell sounds like they're having school tomorrow. Sioux Falls is a go. They've canceled everything else but school. Pretty much every college has pushed things back. So probably by Monday, I would expect any school to happen or state tournaments. So,
and no delay for Sioux Falls right now.
Charlie, what was that?
It is ironic for the state B boys.
I gotta go. Take care, guys.
Bye, Marcus. Stay safe.
Aberdeen Christian makes its first ever state tournament, has the chance to play in the hometown in Aberdeen, maybe get a bigger than normal crowd. And I guess nothing official yet, as far as I know, but looks like there's a good chance that's probably not going to happen.
Yeah, that sucks. Stacking.
Well, now Sioux Falls, the delay on the Chick-fil-A is going to happen. So, because can't have large gatherings of over 250, and we all know Chick-fil-A is a magnet. But I would just say I have heard that I see that school districts are starting to close and stuff too, but that prevents the healthcare officials from doing their job too. So it is a very delicate balance that needs to be played out here, and I will be curious to see what happens. But I guess right now with everything that's happened, we need to do our part. We need to stay safe and no reckless. Yes.
There's 3 sinks at my work, or 4, I guess, and all of them had a 6-step sign of how to wash your hands today, which I did not quite follow, but it's like that in 20 seconds and wash your hands and dry your hands. Like, yes, we got it. So,
Tootsie Roll hand sanitizer too.
Just ridiculous. And any Summit League thoughts? It was better than last year. But that championship game was the turds, and women's game
couldn't get it done.
No, women.
I mean, he's the guy I've literally never talked to in my life before, but briefly resided in the same city as.
Women's game was pretty good. A good close game throughout, and SDSU men lose again in just unthinkable fashion to a terrible team. So.
I didn't realize while we were there that what's his name, that Friedel wasn't even in for the last game. Which
yeah, it was.
My understanding is they took him out because they didn't want him to foul. But if you don't have any timeouts left, it's and then that's
and they didn't foul. They couldn't foul. They could not pitch them. So that's Noah Friedel, just a superstar. Great game.
Yeah, he'll be fun to watch.
He'll be good. So another Summer League tournament in the books, and I would assume we got 5 state basketball tournaments next week, 2 in Rapid, 2 in Sioux Falls, 1 in Aberdeen. I would expect maybe tomorrow those will be called off.
Mm-hmm.
Schools next week called off. I would have been an advocate of empty arena games. I feel like That would have been safe enough. Again, I don't think this is a big enough deal to where, like, all right, let's close down everything to get ahead of it, but maybe that'll be fine. But I wish they would have played games. Huh?
I was just thinking off the top of my head, I could see them waiting until Saturday to cancel the state tournaments in South Dakota, just so if they're going to finish the girls one, that they're like, hey, we're going to wait till it's done before we cancel the others. Because like you said, I'm assuming they're maybe not going to play every game, but at least play the games that matter towards deciding the state champion going forward.
Yeah.
And it would be weird to be like, hey, we're still going to play this, but the other ones are canceled.
It'll be an interesting week. Busy news, couple of days. Been unlike anything we've ever seen. So there we go. See what happens. Coronavirus Lounge 280.
Okay, I do have to say one thing. I got a great tweet here, and it's probably not as good anymore now in light of this. But JD Gravina with the
What a stupid thing he said last night.
oh, I liked it.
You'd rather eat and Castle.
I don't know who this is or what he said.
He said, "I'd rather eat a coronavirus popsicle than play in an arena with no fans."
Mm.
He's the coach of Western Illinois. He knows what that feeling is like.
Yeah.
Every fucking season. Come on, dude.
Yeah, someone asked me what it would be like potentially covering a game tomorrow where there's nobody in the fan or no fans. And I was like, well, I've covered presentation women's basketball, so I mean, I pretty much know what that's like already.
Like, there's a lot of teams in college that don't play in front of anybody. And here's the All-Star game being replayed. So there we go. We'll see where we're at here in a month. There's no sports. I'll catch up on my TV shows. We'll see what happens. For the Stack Attack, for Mr. Charlie and his new couch, enjoy it. For Marcus, we'll see ya.
All right.
Good night.